Hey folks, welcome to the next Monday in this whole thing. So, I'm going to be quoting the president verbatim, which means that I might have a swear word. I was planning on talking about these DACA talks that were going on in the United States, which is a whole program for protecting those who have maybe migrated to the United States illegally, but did so with their parents when they were little children and pretty much spent their whole lives in America, so they're basically American. But basically not technically. And Donald Trump, in all of his wonderful wisdom, asked why they're taking so many immigrants from places like Haiti and other shithole countries. First, I'd say that even with the selfish angle, the United States does owe a lot of its economic success to the letting of immigrants in from those quote-unquote shithole countries. But first, let's talk about why are these countries quote-unquote shitholes? The first country that he mentioned was Haiti. Now, Haiti is an interesting country. It's located on the island of Hispaniola, right next to the Dominican Republic. It speaks French, and it's famous for its revolution, the spark of its country not only being the first successful slave revolt in history, but the first domino that knocked down the entire slave system in the colonial world in the late 18th century. There's actually a really great video about it that came out not too long ago by Nerdy and Quirky that you can check out in a direction somewhere. That is to say, that's when slavery disappeared in most of the world, including Britain, but not in America. No, the early United States didn't want anybody knowing about a successful slave revolt. America had a lot of slaves on its own, and it was still going to hang on to that institution for almost 70 more years. So the United States has always been trying to make sure that the Haitian experiment in self-determination for black people never succeeded. And so Haiti has always had this antagonistic relationship with the United States, including when Woodrow Wilson invaded the country in the early 20th century. But due to things like trade negotiations and all sorts of horrible oppressive relations with Haiti, it's been an international pariah pretty much since its existence, and that has done nothing but delay its growth. And when you're an island nation, cutting off trade can be deadly. Haiti is also located on a fault line, and it gets some pretty nasty earthquakes. There was an earthquake in the not too distant past that killed in the 6 digits of people. And so after years of oppression from the United States and attacks from other countries that didn't really want to see a black republic succeed, attempts at suppressing their democracy when they do it wrong, like what happened under Woodrow Wilson, you wind up with a country that is designated by the United Nations as having little to no hope of developing. So, like in many countries where there's economic turmoil, people leave, especially those who are the brave and entrepreneurial ones. They go to places like the United States and have huge cultural influences. And the United States, which is kind of responsible for creating that damage, not to mention the whole climate change thing, which has disproportionately damaged the global south, including Haiti, tries to think that it can then just shut its borders and just, say mum's a word and have no responsibility for the factors that drove Haiti out in the first place. And then Trump went on to mention Africa as part of these quote-unquote shithole countries. Africa, of course, being horribly colonized, one of the last countries to be colonized by Europeans, mostly in the late 19th century, through something called the Scramble for Africa. It wasn't until the 20th century in many of these cases that a lot of African countries got independence. And even after that, there was an attempt to make sure that these countries had as little infrastructure as possible to make leaving as hard and as bad as it possibly could be. A lot of countries in Africa have had their populations decimated, their government destroyed and turned into basically a dictatorship, and then also have had all of their natural resources depleted. For example, the Congo lost something like half its population due to Belgian colonization. All of the instability of decolonization, all of the stripping of infrastructure, the stripping of any form of organization, and of course, because all that country has known for decades was brutal dictatorship from the European powers, you end up with countries that have brutal dictatorships as a result, people trying to capitalize on the chaos. And then also, as I said, climate change disproportionately affecting people in the global south. You have a lot of issues with ecology happening in Africa. So yeah, a lot of things that the West and the United States is responsible for have caused a lot of these countries to be in the dire straits that they're in. And then trying to close the door when people try to get out is pretty shitty. Not to mention the United States probably shouldn't be throwing stones in a glass house, if I got that metaphor right. The United States trails behind the rest of the developed world in a lot of ways. If anything, the United States is de-developing as we speak. The United States has surprisingly low infant mortality. And by low, I mean it ranks low. It actually has high infant mortality. It has high teenage pregnancy. It has astonishingly low standards of education. It is one of the few countries still clinging to a for-profit healthcare system that leaves many, many people in poverty. It is one of the most economically unequal countries on the planet. And it's led by an orange moron. So please, I hope you understand that by saying something like this, and you just don't want to take immigrants from these quote-unquote shithole countries, the president's first of all saying a fairly racist thing. He's basically saying, why are we taking people from all these countries that are full of people of color? But not only that, it is the United States denying its role in the historical slave trade, in colonization, and in climate change that has caused a lot of the problems these countries are facing. And then, when people are trying to escape all of that, trying to close your doors and say, got mine. This is probably the hottest take that I've ever done, but just saying thing bad, president bad, is not a unpopular opinion right now. Especially with this comment, he's getting a lot of flack. I will say there are a few things that are important that are going on that, unfortunately, Trump is getting off the hook for. Congress just voted in a huge expansion of their spying operations on normal American citizens, and that has been done with the support and vote of Nancy Pelosi and a lot of Democrats. They're blowing up this shithole problem, this really terrible language, not only because it's awful, but because they can then have nobody talk about how the leaders of the hashtag resistance are voting for new surveillance systems on American people. Oh man. Anyways, that is the quick step for this week. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, send to your grandmother, get in a fight on Facebook with it. I don't know. You figure it out. I do want to thank the Vlog Brothers one more time for giving me the camera for this, and I hope to see you all on Thursday. So, until next time, catchphrase.